Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the Denver Broncos at the Chicago Bears in their Week 11 matchup played November 22nd, 2015. We're going to go over the scores and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis. Starting off in the first quarter, the Broncos' first possession of the game resulted in a 48-yard touchdown pass by Brock Osweiler to Demaryius Thomas. Thomas making some really nice moves as he was able to skate down the sideline after catching the ball in the middle of the field, and he takes it into the end zone. And with the extra point by Brandon McManus, it was 7-0 Broncos over the Bears. So now that would do it for the first quarter scoring. Then in the second quarter, Robbie Gould kicked a 46-yard field goal to put the Bears' first points on the scoreboard, as it was now 7-3 with about 10.5 minutes left before halftime. Then with just over 6 minutes left in the first half still, Robbie Gould hit his second field goal of the game, this one from 37 yards out, and it was a 1-point game now with the score Denver 7, Chicago 6. But on the final play of the first half, Brandon McManus kicked a 24-yard field goal, and that extended the Broncos' lead to 4 going into halftime with the score Denver 10, Chicago 6. Now in the third quarter, Danny Trevathan would come up with an interception, and then we had a field goal in the final minute of the third quarter by Robbie Gould, a 37-yarder, his third field goal of the game, and it was once again a 1-point game as the Broncos still led, but now with the score 10-9. So it was a score after 3 quarters of play. So then going into the fourth quarter, now we saw the Denver Broncos get back into the end zone as Brock Osweiler threw his second touchdown pass of this game. This one to Corey Latimer with just under 12 minutes left to play, a 10-yard touchdown. And then with the extra point by Brandon McManus, it was 17-9 as the Broncos now led by 8 points. So the Bears would need a touchdown with the 2-point conversion to tie this game, and they were actually driving late in the fourth with about 2.5 minutes left. They were faced with a 1st and 10 at the Denver 33. Jay Cutler was sacked by Brandon Marshall. He forced the fumble. Jackson recovered, and now the Broncos would get the ball, but they would go 3 and out on this possession, and they had to punt the ball coming out of the 2-minute warning, and so Chicago would get another chance with the score 17-9 and the ball on the Bears 35. Cutler would bring them into Denver territory, and he'd bring them into the red zone when on 2nd and 6 from the 29, a pass interference penalty against the Broncos made it 1st and 10 on the 11. Langford picked up 9 on a pass from Cutler to make it 2nd and 1 on the 2. And then on 3rd and 1 from the 2, Jeremy Langford scored on a 2-yard touchdown run, and that would make it 17-15. The Bears lined up for the 2-point conversion, but the Broncos would shut down the run by Langford, and so it would remain 17-15 as the Bears failed to tie this game up with just under half a minute left to play. Chicago lined up for the onside kick, but they failed as Thomas was able to get the ball and he secured it. And so now all that was left to do was for Brock Osweiler to take the knee in the victory formation as this game came to a close. So a low-scoring defensive battle. The Broncos getting back in the win column. They're now 8-2 on the season, 5-1 on the road. The Bears fall to 4-6. They're 1-4 at home. So Brock Osweiler getting the start and getting the win. Of course, Peyton Manning injured, did not make the flight to Chicago. He stayed back in Denver. And Osweiler played pretty good, not spectacular by any means, but he did have a good game. 20 for 27, 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He did get sacked 5 times. And actually, that's part of the reason why he didn't have any interceptions. Instead of making errant throws, he would take the sack. So it was a smart play by Osweiler to take those sacks and not throw the ball into heavy coverage and risk a turnover. And of course, he got a lot of support on the ground by Hillman. He actually tripped Hillman on one play inadvertently, but Hillman ended up with 21 carries for 102 yards in this game. He also had one catch for 2 yards, giving 104 total yards. And C.J. Anderson, 12 carries for 59 yards. He also had 2 receptions for 13 yards, giving him 72 total yards on the game. Owen Daniels, 4 receptions for 69 yards. And Vernon Davis, 6 receptions for 48 yards. Demaryius Thomas, 3 receptions for 59 yards and a touchdown. And, of course, Latimer with 2 receptions for 22 yards, including a touchdown. And Cutler was 18 for 32, 265 yards, no touchdowns. He did get picked off by Trevathan. Carey, just 9 carries for 32 yards. Langford, 13 carries for just 25 yards. This Cutler outrushed Langford. Cutler had 3 carries for 29 yards, although Langford did have that 2-yard touchdown run that put the Bears within 2 with a chance to tie the game, although he did not convert on that 2-point conversion. And Wilson was the leading receiver in the game for the Bears, 4 receptions and 102 yards. Bellamy, 4 receptions for 57 yards. And Zach Miller, 3 receptions for 47 yards. Martellus Bennett, 2 receptions for 26 yards. And Langford had 3 catches for 17 yards, which gave him 42 total yards on the game. And for the kickers, Brandon McManus, 1 for 1 on the field goals, 2 for 2 on the extra points. Robbie Gould, 3 for 3 on the field goals, did not attempt an extra point. And on defense for Denver, Danny Trevathan with that interception, Von Miller with a sack and a forced fumble. Wolf had a sack as well. And for the Bears, Amos had a sack, Przinski had a sack, Gaston had a sack, Young had a sack, and Goldman had a sack. Look at the team stats: 21 first downs for Denver, 19 first downs for the Bears. On third down, the Broncos were 6 of 14, 42% converted. They went for it once on fourth down. They did not convert. And for the Bears, they were 4 of 12 on third down, 33% conversion rate. They also went for it once on fourth down, not converting. Total net yards, 389 for Denver, 347 for Chicago. And on the ground, the Broncos netted 170, Chicago 86. And through the air, the Bears netted 261. Cutler sacked twice, losing 4 yards. And the Broncos netted 219 through the air, as Osweiler was sacked 5 times, losing 31 yards. And we look at the penalties in this game. Quite the contrast. And normally, with this much of a contrast, you would have thought that the Broncos lost. Of course, that's probably why it was such a close game, as the Broncos penalized 8 times for 118 yards. The Bears not penalized once, where I'm not sure offhand, but I believe they might be the only team to get through a game without a penalty, as I know that as I can recall, have not seen that all year. But in the red zone for the Denver Broncos, they were 1 for 3, 33%. In Chicago, 1 for 4, 25%. The Bears did have 1 fumble in this game, which they did lose. The Broncos, 33 minutes and 13 seconds time of possession. The Bears, 26 minutes, 47 seconds. So Denver goes in there, and they really, everybody's talking about Brock Osweiler, and yes, he did have a decent game. He had a high completion percentage. He had the 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 250 yards, not bad. But it was really Aqib Talib, his presence in the secondary, that made a big difference in this game. Didn't necessarily come up on the stat sheet per se, but he was definitely playing really excellently in that secondary. Saw a lot of big efforts by the defense of Denver, as that is their strength. We saw good games by Marshall, Trevathan, obviously, Von Miller, Talib, just to name a few, but all around a really big defensive effort. And Aqib Talib, he is a leader there in that secondary and on that team, and his presence definitely bolstered that defense that was able to hold the Bears to just 15 points. That's Denver, they didn't really put up a lot of points. It's a low-scoring game, but they found a way to win, and they come away with the W there in Chicago against their former coach, John Fox. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and having a great weekend and enjoyed all the sports.